Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV, where we've had the best start to a weekend after international football. Newcastle have beaten Fulham by 4-1. Me and Michael are here for the last word.
Newcastle Fans TV.
So, yes, it is the last word for Fulham 1, Newcastle United 4. 4 goals away from home in London. Incredible. Absolutely incredible stuff. And here is Michael as well. Michael, good afternoon to you. It is just an afternoon now.
Just afternoon, aye.
It definitely is. And what a day yesterday. Just briefly, what a performance by Newcastle United.
You just kind of said there, like 4-1 in London. I'm from the generation that, early 2000s, we couldn't buy a win in London against any of the London sides. So to come away with that yesterday and for it to be comfortable, feel like no new injuries, and we've got players back who, are Rolls Royce players like Bruno. It was spot on. Couldn't got better, really.
Yeah, well, let's start with the team, Michael, because there was 3 changes to Eddie Howe's side from the Bournemouth game a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Fraser played a lot of international football. I wasn't really surprised that he wasn't starting. Matt Targett, I think that was a bit of a surprise, him not being involved, and also Joe Linton, who hadn't trained, according to Eddie Howe, last week. When you look at the defence in particular, Byrne playing left back, yes, he has played there before, but Sven Botman coming back in, that was quite a big statement from Eddie Howe, wasn't it, Michael?
It was, I have to admit, when I first saw this, like, not just the starting 11, but the squad, like, obviously, as you say, Joe Linton not in, you've got Jacob Murphy playing, and you're like, right, okay, that's an odd one as well. But Byrne, obviously, as you say, Byrne's played at left back for us this season. He's done a decent job. At first glance, I thought that he must be there for a reason, whether it be kind of, another person to go off Mitrovic or whatever. I put up with Mitrovic and his, power and his intensity. But it looks like after the match that Eddie's said that Targett was ill during the week, so kind of, makes sense on that one. The Fraser one, he didn't play very well against Bournemouth, I have to admit. But he played quite well when he came on for Scotland and changed both their games, especially the one at home at Hampden. And I couldn't really understand why you would put Murphy ahead of him. I don't know.
Do you think Murphy was just fresh though, Michael? The fact that Fraser,
Possibly.
as you said, I think he played altogether 2 out of the 3 games in terms of like a combined total of minutes. Murphy hasn't kicked a ball for those 2 weeks. It maybe just thought, we'll just put fresh legs on, and if we have to bring on Ryan Fraser later on, we can do.
Yeah, and there's probably a reason why Jacob Murphy's not kicked a ball for the last couple of weeks. But it was an interesting side. I texted my dad immediately saying, interesting starting 11, I have to admit. But it was great to see Bruno back in from the off. Wilson from the get-go as well. Just he does bring something different to even Alexander Isak up front. And you can't really knock the fact that Maxi wasn't in the squad either, because he changes games for us, and you don't want to rush him back, do you? So it made sense. Yeah,
certainly did. And I'm just seeing there, Lee's just put in the comments, good to see the new signing in the away end, great win. Yes, he was the new Australian wonder kid, was in the away end. I'm sure loads of people try to get pictures with him. I think there's quite a few memes, because I think it was a question about, beating his brother to an international call, and it was like, what was it, Michael? Can you remember? Was it something like, what happened, mate, or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, his brother's being older, isn't he? And you would think closer to getting to the Aussie national side, the Socceroos, but Garang Kual beats them to the post. So I'm sure there's been plenty of class Aussies in the Premier League, and let's hope he's another one kicking the ball for Newcastle United soon. So
he's just got to follow the footsteps of Mark Viduka. Anyway, from Fulham's team news, Mitrovic started. So it was obviously 50-50 whether he was going to start or not. But I think if there was any half chance he could play, he was going to play. Dan James started. He came in from Leeds in the summer. Pereira, ex-former Manchester United player as well. So there was Fulham have got some good players in several different positions, I think. And you've got to look at the start they've made. Obviously, they're actually on the same points as Newcastle now, 11 points after Newcastle's win yesterday. It is Mitrovic, though, isn't it? It's Mitrovic FC at Fulham at the minute, Michael, and you have to keep him quiet. Do you think it maybe Eddie Howe maybe thought of playing the likes of Byrne, Botman, and Schär against them, because 3 physical players, Targett,
Yeah.
You know, he's not the biggest. Do you think maybe just thought we'll just put that extra bit of
Well,
protection in there?
when I first saw the starting 11, like I said before, with Burn playing left back, you're thinking, you know, go with somebody who's bigger, more physical in there, just to, you know, it's somebody else to bat away Mitro. And I mean, it was obviously only midweek he came. It was a picture of him walking off from a Serbian game with a bandage around his ankle. So it was, yeah. You know, they've got to chuck him in. I completely accept that, but it was still a little bit of a surprise that he was starting yesterday. But it is that they're a good outfit. I think they're probably the surprise package of the three that's come up so far. That they don't look like they're going to do a Fulham, and they probably could stay up this season quite comfortably.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Fulham get on, I suppose, because you look at them in terms of the three promoted sides. I've got the table in front of me. Fulham are 8th, you know, Bournemouth are 12th, and Nottingham Forest in the relegation zone. So it just shows that they have had the best start of the three teams, and they've done pretty well. Let's go into the game though. 5 minutes in, big decision. Sean Longstaff gets absolutely clattered by Chalobah, and the referee Darren England gets a yellow card to start with. But you know, Mike Dean, he's still technically a referee, Michael Austin. He is still making big decisions by VAR. He's asked the referee to come over and have a look. From first glance, it looked a horrible challenge, and I think VAR was there just to kind of confirm that. Why was he not given a red card to start with?
The only thing I can think of is there's been this precedent set where, you know, without VAR, referees were quite willing and able to make a call and go, that is a penalty, a red card, whatever, and, you know, I'll stand by it. I feel like with VAR in there as well, they're less inclined to like stick their neck out, and they'll go and make a call and then rely on VAR to make the right call for them. And I don't particularly like it, and I think it's the standard officiating's gone down probably because of partially of that, but it was a red all day long. If you look from the North London derby earlier in the day with Emerson Royale going off, it's a similar type of incident in terms of, you know, high foot, like, you know, the Emerson Royale one is 50-50 in my book, but that one yesterday, it was just, Chalobah should have been off straight away. It was awful. Even after 5 minutes, it's awful.
It's a red card after the first 5 minutes. It's a red card with 5 minutes to go. And I think the referee eventually got the decision right. Took a little bit longer than normal, but Newcastle had pretty much a whole game against 10 men, which is ideal when you come back from an international break against a Fulham side who were probably feeling that they could probably get a result over Newcastle. But Newcastle certainly took advantage of it, Michael, quite quickly. Callum Wilson, great to see him back in Newcastle's shirt.
Fantastic.
It's been far too long. So I think it was the Manchester City game was his last game again for Newcastle, obviously playing against obviously a very difficult team in Manchester City, but it took him 10 minutes, and he could have had a hat-trick yesterday. He really could have. You know, he had a shot on the turn on the edge of the box just over the crossbar as well. He's hit the post early on as well, so he was bound to get some sort of goal. But you've got to give credit to Kieran Trippier. Fantastic ball on that right-hand side. Joe Willock probably thinks he's got a goal, but Callum Wilson is there just to make sure of it. And that's what a typical striker should do, Michael. Totally
agree. I mean, I was watching it and I'm thinking Joe Willock's going to be absolutely seething today because he should have had a goal. But yeah, he's got to put it in. If there's any doubt that it's going to hit the post and rebound out, you've just got to bury it, haven't you? But you're right, he should have scored beforehand when he hit the post. He had a couple of other clear-cut chances. There were a few balls across the 6-yard box that were either should have been played to him or, you know, he could have got on the end of himself as well. He just provides a different outlet going forward, especially in these physical games against like Fulham's, Forest's, you know, Everton's or whatever, where they sit a bit deeper. He's perfect to kind of, you know, bully a defender, and it's just not Isak's game. So, yeah, you know, there's going to be an interesting, you know, track out going forward of how you play them together if you do. But it was class to see him back yesterday.
You talk about Joe Willock, and I've had arguments, and there's been people on the channel, I know people that are obviously long-term admirers of Newcastle Fans TV. You know, Harry isn't a massive fan of Joe Willock, but I think he offers something completely different in Newcastle's midfield. Something a lot more different than Bruno does, Shelby does, Joe Linton does. We don't really have that player that can take the ball and run with it and from midfield. Yeah. I would argue that he is in the strongest midfield three when all midfielders are fit. Where do you sit on the fence in terms of Joe Willock, Michael?
I think what you've just said there in terms of offering something different. You've got a few ball-playing centre midfielders there, whether it's short balls, long balls, when Shelby's back in the team, or like the brute that is Joe Linton, which, he provides that break-up. But Willock comes into his own in the last 30, 40 minutes of a game when the game's getting stretched after 50, 55 minutes. He just takes the ball and runs it, like the classic example last season against Leicester for the winning goal in the 95th minute or whatever. He offers that, and I don't necessarily think we've got another centre midfielder. Like Longstaff, he could probably do it, but he doesn't. He's dropped a bit deeper into the shelvy kind of ball playing role. But I think he's great. He's definitely, and he's probably starting 3 in there for me. Whether that continues is another story. But he's a brilliant squad player to have, regardless.
Yeah, regardless, he does offer something different, and there was a reason why Newcastle decided to spend their only money on him just under 18 months ago. But hopefully he continues his form, because he's pretty much played most minutes for Newcastle since the start of the season, kept himself fit as well. So he certainly wants to watch in terms of how many games he can get throughout the whole season, because he has got that quality. But quality, we have to talk about Miguel Almiron, Michael. That goal is already goal of the month, in my opinion. Something ridiculous is going to have to beat it. But the pass from Bruno as well. It's not the first time. Oh, not the first time these two have linked up. I can remember the Crystal Palace game last season, where Bruno's ball and Miggy runs, of course, and we're seeing what happened. But that goal, the technique of that goal is absolutely incredible. Bruno's lovely little ball. It was almost like a little lob wedge if you play
sculpt.
Golf. And Miggy watches the ball. There's a great camera shot, and he literally watches the ball, comes over his shoulder. This is for any kids that want to become a footballer. Watch Miguel Almiron's head. Don't even watch the volley. Watch the head. He literally looks over, perfect left foot, outside the left foot. Bernd Leno has absolutely no chance. Newcastle are 2-0 up, Michael. Talk to me about how sublime that goal is.
I mean, it's a bit bizarre coming from a player like Miguel Almiron, if I'm being completely honest. He's got form last season against Palace, but he's a bit hit and miss, isn't he? He offers something different down that right. There's 50-50s of why he's playing on the right, but that yesterday was just class. It was the interplay going from left to right initially. I think it was played across by Willock across to kind of Bruno out to right and Trippier and whatnot. But the interplay down that wing, the run, the ball, it was just fantastic. I saw a thing yesterday basically saying that for the goal against Palace and the goal against Fulham yesterday, it was pretty much scored by Miggy from exactly the same portion of the box. And if he were just to stay in that portion of the box forever, he'd be the best player since Kingdom Come for Newcastle United. But it was class. Watching it come over and hitting it outside of the left foot into the top corner, it was class, absolutely class. And he definitely meant it as well, because his eyes were focused on that top corner. And I've seen too many people try to claim that it's not. He meant it, and he just grew into the game after it as well.
I wonder what Jack Grealish was thinking after that. When he's seen that goal for the first time, because I think he would like to play like Almiron at the minute, wouldn't he, Michael?
I think he would. Who doesn't want to be Miguel Almiron? Happy, cheery, brings everything to the game. He's a class squad player, good guy to be around, and he can pull that out of the bag. And he nearly had the third, when he nearly had that third as well. It was exactly the same.
We've had so many good goals this season, Michael. And get this in the comments as well, by the way, if you can like this video. For Miguel Almiron's goal. For Jack Grealish, basically being an absolute dickhead. Because that's probably worth a like in itself. But what is Newcastle's goal of the season so far? Because we've had Fabian Schär, we've had Kieran Trippier, we've had Alan St. Maximin against Wolves. People are probably forgetting about that right now. And then we've had Miggy today. I'm struggling between Maxi and Miggy's goals. I think both are so different. But they're very similar in terms of the actual volley. But Maxi's comes to about 20 foot in the air, and Bruno's pass to Miggy. I can't make my mind up. Make my mind up.
Yeah, well, technique-wise, they're both class, aren't they? One taking it down from the stratosphere and putting it into the bottom corner against Wolves, or watching, just exactly as you're saying, watching the ball come over from Bruno and then bury it in the top corner. For me, I think Maxi's goal, but I would happily be overruled on that one. But both, even the Schär one was fantastic. You could, let's just keep it going. Let's keep it going. But these are all goals that I feel like, call me daft, but in the last decade, we just would never have scored. We wouldn't be talking about these class goals. It'll be nicked a point there at the end or whatever. But it's just nice to be talking
that
about.
Sentence, Michael, that you just said there just reminded me of Steve Bruce. Well, we nicked a point right at the end there. We did really well.
Exactly. But yeah, it's nice to be coming away smiling and talking about these class goals and, players making a difference for us. It's a good change.
It certainly is. Miggy all day, twice on a Sunday, says Geordie Toon for life. I always want to see his goal more than twice on a Sunday, Geordie Toon for life, because it is that good. I think I've only watched it about 350,000 times since it happened. But it is absolutely brilliant. And just to kind of go back onto what I was just talking about there, the Steve Bruce thing. A year ago today, Michael, Newcastle played Wolves at Molineux. I was there with a few of the guys from the channel, and I've never experienced some depressing Newcastle fans walking out that ground. There was just numbness. There was just nothing. And you look at it, probably seen so many thousands of Newcastle fans that, left Craven Cottage yesterday, and you seen Deck and Amanda Stavely starting two chants outside Craven Cottage. The actual difference in the energy and, the optimism around the club at the minute is just absolutely incredible.
It's crazy. Geordie mania, honestly, with that and like Sam Fender on the go and all this kind of stuff. It's class to be around. The city feels class. But in terms of like the football side, you think it's going to be a year ago next Friday that, since Takeover Day, and you think of what's happened in that 12 months, where we've come, what we've done, and don't take for granted that, from our position of not winning in the first 12 whatever games, that will not be repeated. That won't be matched. It won't go. And not to only do that, but to finish where we did. And people say don't look back from last season, but we've got so much energy to build on from last year. And it's nice to see that, from yesterday, going to kill a game off, getting 4, and it's what we needed. But fantastic performance all around.
I like this question actually from LSO Inferno. Question: would you prefer Miggy popping up occasionally with a worldie like he did yesterday, or never scoring the worldie goals but being more consistent? I think it depends, Michael, on what the consistent means. Does it mean getting more assists, getting more goals? Because he can't. This is what Newcastle fans have been frustrated with Miguel Almiron, is that he can get more goals, he can get more assists. I still want him to use his right foot a lot more. Like, that does infuriate me, especially at home. There's been times where if he used his right foot just to get a crossing, Isaac, Murphy, whoever's at the top could possibly get on the end of stuff. But what would the answer to that question be from you, Michael?
Well, there was a little glimpse of it yesterday, I think, from Miggy, in that his second goal, he would never have normally been in that position. He was effectively, coming in off that right, and that ball from Willock could have quite easily been played to Callum Wilson, and it wasn't. It went back post, and Miggy buried it from 4 or 5 yards out. That's what we want from him. We want him to play, come in off the right, or if he's playing on the left, whenever, but basically support that kind of, balls into the box. So I'd like him to see him be a bit more consistent with, creating chances. It doesn't have to necessarily be modern game, it's all about it's stats driven, isn't it? It's how many assists have you got? What's your XG? What's your XA? And all this kind of stuff. I just want to see him create some chances, and if he can bag a couple here and there, that's absolutely what we need from him. And I just hope that this, a bit like the Palace game last season, gives him that little bit of confidence now to just go and, keep doing that for the next games, because he could have had that hat-trick. He was unlucky to be offside. He didn't bend his run enough, but that finish for the third goal in itself, it shows you he's backing himself to take them on. So a little bit more consistent from him, but he's currently our joint top scorer. Is that right?
Yeah, him and Callum Wilson both with 3 goals this season. Let's see who wins that battle. I know where my money's going, I have to be honest. But Newcastle did make it, talking about 3, Newcastle did make it 3-0 just before half-time. Sean Longstaff, now a lot of people have had, moans and groans over Sean Longstaff in the last 12 months or so, 18 months. But he seems to be getting a little bit of form, and Newcastle got a corner which was headed by Sven Botman, who was just like a Rolls Royce yesterday. He just didn't put a foot wrong, nor did Paddy and Share by just to even it up. His header was saved really well by Bernd Leno, the former Arsenal keeper, but it fell straight into the path of Longstaff after it hit the post from Leno's save, and he just put it away. And Newcastle were 3-0 up. The last time Newcastle United were 3-0 up at home, 3-0 up at home, 3-0 up at half-time in a Premier League match, Michael, was when?
The 2012 West Brom.
2012 West Brom. Can you, and that was added points. And for an added point in the comments, can you name the goal scorers that day?
Oh God, I was going to do it. We were watching this in the Sal in Tynemouth, Greeny, and it was. I remember watching Orange Strip, and we tore them apart. But that was just a mental game, mental day. But yeah, yesterday that was. Botman's unlucky not to score. It was that header. I mean, I was going to say you can't judge Fulham too much off yesterday, because if you go down to 10 after like 5-6 minutes, like it's pretty much written off the rest of the game. But the one thing you can say is they were quite poor. They didn't keep chugging along, and they were pretty poor defensively. They didn't mark us at all from set pieces, and that kind of was tokened when Botman had a free header, and the header was fantastic. Like, it could have went anywhere, but it was pretty much going in. Cracking save, and then my point's kind of proving that it just falls to Longstaff. Longstaff's in acres of space, and all he's got to do is connect with it, and it's in the back of the net, and it's 3.
Joel, you're very, very close. Ben Arthur, yes, he scored the third, I believe. The second, sorry, from a counter-attack. Pape Cisse scored. How many, though? How many did Pape Cisse score? That might be a little hint. I think, I'll be giving it away pretty easily. Pape Cisse 2, Hat and Ben Arthur 1, Newcastle 3-0 for half-time against West Bromwich. That was the last time that happened. I think to sum up Fulham's misery, Michael, Alexander Mitrovic was subbed off with an injury. So that just tells you how much Fulham were really looking forward to this game to be ended. But half-time, 3-0, perfect if you're Eddie Howe. And the second half started was very much more the same. And Newcastle got that fourth goal, which you mentioned, Miguel Almiron, finishing a fantastic through ball from Joe Willock. And we've mentioned how good Joe Willock's been. But there was, if Miggy wasn't there, and it was, say, at the front post, Callum Wilson was there to make it potentially 4-0 at the time. It was just a cherry on top of the Almiron cake, wasn't it, yesterday, in terms of that little finish at the end. And Miguel Almiron has a battle with Ryan Fraser, Jacob Murphy, Alan St. Maximum. Some will even say Alexander Isak could potentially play on one of the wings as well. So I think he needs to make sure these performances are keeping up to a very high standard, because when ASM's back, ASM will start. Simple as that.
Of course he will. Yeah, I mean, Jacob Murphy isn't a Premier League player. He's a Championship player at best, and he's you've got to give him some credit, because he's stuck around. I know it's his boyhood club, and he's worked solidly over the last few years and provided, a bit like the Kieran Clarks of this world, when they could have disappeared because we were awful. But now we're on a different footing here. We've got to build. We've got to go on. But I still think Miggy's he can change a game just because of his pace and energy and tenacity, and he's that kind of player that we'll get to a point where we miss him, and he won't start. He won't. But in the latter stages of games with his legs, he'll kill people. He will. He'll take them apart. And I think it's just testament to him. I'm gutted he didn't get that hat-trick yesterday, because I think that would have been, a massive fuck you to Jack Grealish, even more so than getting the 2 and having a cracking performance. But it was even the build-up play for that fourth goal, holding the run by Willock, through ball from Murphy, playing it across the 6-yard box. It was cherry on top of the cake, as you say.
It really was, and that was 4-0. And Elliot Anderson came on, got some good minutes in a Premier League match. Obviously, probably the perfect time to play that. You mentioned, Michael. He played a lovely through ball. Mickey was half a yard off, and he did put it away. Could have been 5-0. Could have been a hat trick. Could have been a first assist for Elliot Anderson in the Premier League. He got some minutes, which was great to see. He came on for Bruno, who, let's be honest, we want Bruno to be wrapped up in cotton wool. If we're 3 or 4 against Fulham, you kind of think we're going to win the game as well. Callum Wilson also came off as well. Jacob Murphy going into up front, moving from the wing. Ryan Fraser going on to the left-hand side. And then 3 more substitutions. Jamal Lascelles, Jamal Lewis came on as well. I'm trying to think of the other one was at the top of my head. I can't really remember. Tell us in the comments. I'm sure I've missed somebody out. But yeah, I know Jamal Lascelles came off. I know Jamal Lewis. Hey, what's the other one? I can't think of the top of my head.
I can't remember either.
I'm going to start. Was it Mankio maybe? I don't know. I know Trippier came off, so let us know in the comments who it was. But they came on and Newcastle conceded, which is great.
It was probably the only negative from yesterday, wasn't it? Really, kind of coming away and not keeping the clean sheet. But it was a pretty poor goal all round to concede. Like you're watching Jacob Murphy kind of track back, and you're thinking, "Oh God, here we go." Cracking ball in from Cabano, and Bobby Dover Reid just kind of does what he should do. It's a set, yeah. Like,
Who was that? Bobby who?
But it was a good goal from their perspective. Shocking to concede it for us, but like if that's what we're clutching at straws to look for a negative as being Newcastle fans, then yeah, not a bad day at the office.
It certainly wasn't a bad day. There was Adam. Thank you for letting me know it was Matt Target. I couldn't remember who it was. So Matt Target came on with Jamal Lewis and Jamal Lascelles as well. Sam's been in the comments. He's meant to be at work right now, but he says Botman should be wearing a smoke jacket when he plays. Effortlessly class. Oh, why does he make me say this word twice? Effortless.
Go on, Grady.
I can't do it.
Did you see him midweek, by the way? Did you see how suave he looked? It was like Batman, just we say Batman, but it was like more like Bond. Him in like a Bond villain next to Dan Burn, who looked like the next 007. It was fantastic. But yeah, smoking jacket, cigars on the go.
It was fantastic, and again, great to see so many. The two new members of the Hall of Fame now, John Beresford and Terry McDermott, two fantastic members who join an incredible list of people who really, really do. I think we've interviewed a few on Newcastle Fans TV, Sir Les Ferdinand being one, and he really, treasures that as one of his highest achievements in football to be in the Newcastle United Hall of Fame. So yeah, big congratulations to John Beresford and to Terry McDermott. It is Takeover anniversary week next week. And for the people watching right now, we have got a big guest on the Green and Mullen show. We've already done the interview with a man who was critical. That's all I'm saying. Critical to the Newcastle United takeover. That's all I'm saying. It will be released on our socials tomorrow. I believe the video is going out tomorrow night as well. So if you want to become a member, you will already find out who this person is. 99 pence. 99 pence. I've just had a cup of coffee. It's less than a cup of coffee these days. There you go. Michael, 4-1 it ended. 68% possession, 19 shots, 10 shots on target.
It's hard to sum up,
when
really.
Do you see this as Newcastle?
It's hard to really say anything else. It was we'll have more difficult days at the office than we did have yesterday, but we'll take it while it's there. And it still feels weird that that's Newcastle United playing football. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that easy. But yeah, good day.
Very good day. Bruno's part in yesterday's goal was beautiful. The understanding of where Mickey was going, the way of the pass, just underlies why we need him playing further forward and not a DM. Well, could that be the role of John Joe Shelby? John Joe Shelby could potentially play that position. Joe Linton wasn't even involved as well. We're going to speak about that in a second. But Ian's made a point which we forgot to mention at the top of the show. There has been a massive fan crush in Indonesia football overnight. I think that says 117. That I've actually seen 174 people have passed away, including policemen as well. So our thoughts to all the fans that obviously have lost their lives and all the families of those fans as well. But normally we'll have a clip from Eddie Howe, but due to technical reasons down in southwest London. It's a lovely part of the world, may I add, southwest London. I've been to Chelsea a couple of times, and let's just say the houses aren't cheap down on the King's Road. But Michael, Eddie Howe, let's just hear some of the stuff he said yesterday. I'm going to have to try and read it. I'm going to have to do something that blokes can't do, right? It's called multitasking. It's talking to a camera and reading at the same time. So here we go. He said it's been a very, very difficult 2 weeks, but it didn't show in our performance. Right from the start, we had a good feeling with good energy and created chances early on. Obviously, the red card made it easier, but I'm very pleased with the players' response. Talking about Miguel Almiron's unbelievable goal. And I'm going to have to talk more about that with Michael in a second. He says the first half strike was special, and he basically said that Miggy emphasises what the team is at the minute. He's been excellent. He's been unlucky not to add more goals and more assists since the start of the season. He singled out Miggy there, Michael. He had a fantastic pre-season, but pre-season's pre-season, let's be honest. He had to take that form into this season. I would say that he has to an extent, but if there was, say, 1 or 2 more goals, 1 or 2 more assists, you would say he's definitely taken that on. I think now Newcastle have a lot of games until the World Cup. You want to see more from Miguel Almiron, and I think Eddie Howe certainly believes, and there's a big hug at the end of the game as well. So it's nice to know that he's got his full support.
He's an integral member of that squad. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. Like he brings I was saying before, like he's just a good egg. Like he's good to be around. Clearly happy. It never looks too like, strained or angry or whatever. But I think we're being quite harsh, really. He's got 3 goals. He's never had that by this stage of the season. Like, we've always been going probably at the back end going, oh, well, he could probably add a couple by now. Like, he's played 20 to 30 games or whatever. But he was brilliant yesterday, to his credit. I'd like to see him kick on now. He's had 2 periods within the last, 10 months of football, the back end of last season and probably the last couple of games, well, at least yesterday, where he's looked class. So I'd like to see him become the player that we all thought he could be when he joined us from MLS a few years ago. But he's testament to kind of him, Joe Linton, the character of the players that were there who have upped their game massively. They're the poster boys. And if you copy them and you keep their kind of attitude of playing football and life in general, then the rest of them will fly. So,
They certainly will. I like Giles' comment here. I like Lee's matchday blood, but why didn't he cry like he did at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Because Joe Linton didn't score, Giles. Come on, he only does it when Joe Linton scores and England win the cricket. But that's for a different story in a different video. Look, he singled out Miguel Almiron, as I've mentioned. He singled out Callum Wilson a little bit. He said he's a goal scorer, razor sharp instinct for the goal. Again, he could have had a hat-trick. It'd be great to see him get minutes under the belt. And obviously, he should be in line to start at St James's against Brentford next week, as long as he doesn't get injured. But I think as well, the fans were amazing yesterday, and there's such a good spirit, as we've mentioned. They probably just want to go to every single game. They probably want the Brentford game to be tomorrow. But Newcastle sit in 7th place, Michael, with 3 points off the top 4. I'll never be pessimistic, but just for the people that maybe are a little bit 5 points off the relegation zone. But I think Newcastle are going to be absolutely fine this season. I think top 10 was probably the aim for the squad. They're sitting 7th. Liverpool haven't started greatly there on 10 points, but when you look at the table, it looks a lot more healthy, and that is what Eddie Howe said in his press conference yesterday. The table looks a lot more healthy after 8 games. 7 games, 8 points. It was like it's a bit hit and miss. Now 8 games, 11 points, 3 points off the top 4 with a winnable game against Brentford next week. Things look up again.
You think of all those marginal calls. I mean, I say marginal calls, but like VAR playing against us. We think of like things in the Wolves game with the penalty incident, or against Liverpool, or the Wilson bit at Brighton. If you get the rub of the green and like they go in your favour, suddenly you're sat on 15, 16 points. So it's yes, we've all been we had a bit of a reality check against Bournemouth. I felt we were reined back in hopes and dreams and all that kind of stuff. Probably not a bad thing to happen. Don't get carried away too much. But we could be in a much better position. Yeah, we definitely needed yesterday just to kind of settle ourselves. But I think, I think 7th probably feels, based on the fact that Leicester are shocking this season, wherever they've gone, I don't know. But 7th feels probably like it's where we should be. And if we can kick on a couple of extra places, then let's go for it.
I have to ask, because there was a lot of stupid comments a couple of weeks ago about Eddie Howe's future at the football club. Did it just show today, don't doubt this manager, because he knows exactly what he's doing?
It's just, I don't understand those calls. Like, it's not unique to Newcastle United, but we're definitely a unique beast on Twitter. That's all I'm going to say. Newcastle United Twitter is an odd place. But how you can say that like everybody's going to have an off day and an off game, and it's not like we've been found out or anything. It was just that we played a very particular type of game against Bournemouth that, and it was an odd occasion. It shows you how much war flags are missed when they're not there. The atmosphere was off. It was just the whole thing in itself was just weird. So to call for Eddie to go or whatever was just, come on, man. Like what you drinking and what you smoking. So he knows what he's doing. He's a football manager. He knows better than all of us to kind of who he's picking and whatnot. So leave him to it.
I have to end going back to Miggy's goal, and someone's mentioning it's similar to Ticanio again there for West Ham, which is Fulham's goal of the season. There wasn't any defender around Ticanio. There was a defender around Miguel Almiron. Is it the best Newcastle goal that we've seen away from home?
God, I'm racking my brain now. In the league?
In the league, is it the best goal that we've seen away from home? Because I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But I thought I'll just put the question on you. Just make it a little bit more difficult for you, mate.
I'm just thinking of some random ones here. So there was, for some reason, my head's gone to Obafemi Martins. Do you know his goal against White Hart Lane against Spurs?
Yeah,
that was a cracker. I
think Mickey's is better.
Really?
I think Mickey's is better. I think it's harder to score Mickey's goal than it is Martin's goal.
Debatable. Let's get down to colour codes at the weekend and we'll see if you can repeat them, mate.
I've got a left foot on me. I've got a left foot. I'm right footed. I'll try on the right foot. There's no way I can do that. I can do Martin's goal or Mickey's goal with my left foot. I can tell you that for a fact right now. But yeah, get your comments in. Was Miguel Almiron's goal the best goal that we've seen? I've just seen an unbelievable comment, Michael, and I think it completely ended the debate. It's literally, you'll know which one I'm going to say in a second.
Of course. What were we on about? Yeah, geez, yeah, sorry. I'm going to go and have a coffee after this because I clearly need to wake up. It's the only one we can choose. Yeah.
Do you think Pape Cissé's first goal is underrated because no one talks about that because of his second goal?
Massively so. And like he scored a pretty similar goal in some sense on his debut, didn't he, against Villa when he put it top corner at St James's in front of the Gallagher. Like maybe we just became used to him scoring some decent strikes, but the way he took it down and buried it in the top bins was class. It's just that the fact that the second one is so much better even than that, and it's like a stratospheric type goal, but underrated.
Wow, incredible goal, absolutely incredible goal. All happened on my 18th birthday as well. I bet you're thinking, God, you only look 28. Yeah, I've seen so many different shows with so many different goals as well. But yeah, get your comments in as well. Again, a big thanks to Michael. Again, like this video. If you can subscribe to Newcastle Fans TV, that would be greatly appreciated. Brentford next week. We've got takeover videos this week. Again, big one coming out tomorrow. No one has interviewed this man that you've seen on YouTube. No one has. He's been on paper, he's done newspapers, but he's never done a face-to-face interview about this. So make sure that you watch the Green and Mullen show tomorrow with me and Sam, because it's certainly one not to be missed. Newcastle has scored 4 away from home. Miguel Almiron scored 2 with a goal this season contender. And Jack Grealish is doing fuck all for Manchester City. Thank you very much. And good afternoon to all the Newcastle fans out there. We'll see you all very, very soon.